Since 1985, the TV soap opera Eastenders has been running on British TV screens on BBC One. As you might have guessed, it's set in East London, in a fictional borough called Walford, and over the years has followed various families and characters through trials and tribulations. Some of those trials and tribulations might seem a bit too hot for TV before the watershed, to be honest. There's been some plot lines on this show that absolutely do not muck about. I mean, yes, you do get the general mindless plot lines of will they, won't they shag? Will the local have to be sold out? Who nicked my cat? Probably, I haven't watched it for years. Well, there's also some really deep stuff happening over in Walford, like murder, domestic abuse. Basically, it's all kicking off at Albert Square.
This had nothing to do with you. You go try and explain it to Tiffany. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, a popular soap opera that features traumatic and triggering themes seems like a perfect idea for a ZX Spectrum game, said nobody ever. Apart from these nuthouses, apparently. I can't wait to use this bad boy to simulate shagging my boyfriend's dad so that I'll get pregnant so that the former will think that it's actually his baby and thus stay in the failing relationship. No, I'm not even taking the piss. The kind of topics Eastenders covers are really important to do so. Things like the issue of sexual coercion, sexual abuse, marital rape, elder abuse, racism, depression, all stuff that happens every single day, not just in London, by the way, obviously, absolutely everywhere. I think it's important to have a daytime TV show present these issues in a realistic and non-judgmental manner, because so many people in real life are just sleepwalking around and have no idea of the utter bullshit happening just next door. And hopefully, if you're invested in a TV character, you'll realise how messed up so much of that aforementioned stuff is, and how much society still needs to change. Alright, sorry about that serious moment, back to making juvenile jokes. Oh, we are about to address some hard-hitting plot lines with this thing. I'm expecting my PTSD to be triggered to all bobbins. Let's dance. By the way, this was released in 1987 by Maxon Software. I didn't research into the company because I don't care, other than they did a handful of games that were licensed. So this was released about 2 years after the series started, and was made under license from the BBC, although I couldn't find if the company was commissioned to do so, or they approached the BBC themselves. I also personally don't care if they did or they didn't, and I refuse to waste precious moments on this earth spending hours trawling through archives to find out. If you want to work that out, please be my guest, knock yourself out. Ooh, now I have to admit, seeing that Eastenders title in Spectrum graphics is adorable, until you look at it a bit harder and realise it's weird. The letters are all misshaped. It looks like it was written in various slightly different fonts. And what are these symbols over on the right here? Is that a sock? A butterfly? Then again, I don't know what I was expecting to symbolise the kind of important and traumatic issues often shown in the show. Maybe this beer mug symbolises alcoholism. That's a pretty serious issue to deal with. Is this a fuel can? Are we going to set our wife's house on fire? Because that sounds fun. Again, both issues covered in the show, so that wasn't even a good joke, really. Okay, be nice. It's a ZX Spectrum. It's not that it wasn't capable of some nice-looking pixel art. That's not the case here, and that's fine. It doesn't have to look good to be a good game. It's all about the content and not the looks. It's the first line of my Tinder profile. Alright, okay, what have we got here? Is this a railway line or a fence with a terrible perspective? These random blocks of colour, while quite pleasing to look at as someone whose life is devoid of cheer, aren't exactly the best representation of anything. Are they supposed to be houses? You know, they might be. Eastenders is set on a series of streets around one Albert Square, so that must be where we are. We, being this guy. So I did at first reasonably think this must be one of the many characters in the show, but actually, according to the insert, it's no one that's ever been knocking around Albert Square before. In fact, the only name he's given is a small figure. Yeah, the cassette insert really just tells you that you're controlling a small figure. Now, I have a number of problems with this. 1. Why couldn't you use one of the show's characters? That would make much more sense and keep players more invested. It can't be because the BBC were odd about licensing them out, because there are characters named from the show in the instruction book. 2, yes, these coloured blocks you can see are indeed buildings, I assume viewed from the top, after some mentalist has painted all the roofs weird colours. Which means this guy isn't small, he's absolutely colossal. His height spans most of the street, for God's sake. While we're looking at the documentation, I just want to point out that the full name of the game is EastEnders Part 1, the arcade game. Ooh, rolls off the tongue. I know I said I don't really have that much interest in things like the company behind the game and how it was conceived, probably in the depths of hell, but I am interested in really stupid asinine stuff like, why is it called the arcade game Part 1? Was it intended to have a second game? Were we going to get treated to some more of this gloriousness? And was it supposed to be released to the arcades? An EastEnders game on an arcade machine, really? Is that a thing? Please tell me that's a thing. It's not a thing. And yes, I did spend hours researching, trying to answer either of those questions and was not successful. Thank you very much. Seriously, if any of you know why this was called Part 1 and an arcade game, let me know in the comments, because that's the kind of useless trivia I'm all about. Anyway, so here we are with Mr. Small Figure at Albert Square, where it's all about to kick off. There's 6 other locations that he can access from here: the Laundrette, the Queen Vic, which is the local pub, Oz Cabs, which is the taxi place, the fruit stall, the long-standing EastEnders family, the Fowler's place, and the allotment. Each location is represented by one of those icons we saw earlier. So Beer Tankard is the pub, Butterfly is the allotment, Sock Laundrette, thing that I thought was a fuel can is the fruit stall, and that weird thing that I thought was a cat is actually a baby crib, representing the Fowler's home. So I'm already a bit pissed off that I have to remember where each of these places is. What was stopping them from just adding the symbol to each of the coloured blocks too? I hate memory games. So when all is well in Albert Square, these icons will be on a green background. When it starts to kick off, they go amber, then red when it's getting serious. So off I go to... So Mr. Small Figure walks like that, does he? You remember the War Crime EastEnders episode? Alright, so the first thing to kick off in my playthrough is the baby. So let's go to the Fowler's house, where this poor child's irresponsible parents have left him unattended, and you, a random bloke from the street, have got to look after him. Now, I'll be honest, this took me forever to work out. At first, the way the hand you control is poised had me thinking I'm supposed to be checking that the baby is breathing, which is dark. There's a bottle that sometimes fills up randomly on the bottom left here, but picking it up is a nightmare. You need to put the hand in the exact perfect place, and if you don't keep hold of the spacebar, which is how you interact with something, it drops the whole bottle. I had to check the instructions after like 5 minutes of panicking at a screaming baby to find out the point of this screen is to rock the baby. You do that by pressing and holding on a very specific part of the crib, at which point the little shit will fall into a blissful slumber. And that bottle there is supposed to give you some extra points if you feed him with it. So that's bullshit having that there to confuse me. I don't know what's going on. Also, I have to say, that is a big baby. I actually thought this was a grandma sick in bed when I saw it the first time because it's so badly drawn and out of proportion. I don't even want to think what the poor mother's vagina looks like now. She can probably slide down a wheelie bin. Judging by the size of the player's hand, he must be about 4 foot tall, maybe? Did his mum fuck Polyphemus? But then even the bottle, which by the way looks way more like a demijohn, that must be massive also? Are we feeding this baby homemade wine? And if so, why aren't you just letting me have it? I would drink the bobbins out of that right now, fuck the kid. Right, that was deeply stressful. What's next? Oh, it's all kicking off at the pub now. Oh no, what's going on? Is someone getting glassed? Oh, I am so ready for this drama. Come on. Oh. What's actually happening is someone is asking you for a drink, you're supposed to pick the right glass for what they ask for, fill it with the correct drink, and then give it ice or lemon if needed. Now, I'm already at a massive disadvantage because I have no clue what any of these glasses are meant to be for. When I want alcohol, I just pour it into the nearest fucking receptacle. Some guy wanders in asking for a mild, and I thought that was some kind of sex position, to be honest. But pressing all of the glasses didn't help, and that was the same for any other request. I have no clue what I'm doing in this screen. Nothing seems to work. It's incredibly distressing to see all of that alcohol in front of me and not being able to take it. Friggin' drink it. Oh no, it's all kicking off at the fruit stall now. Whoa, okay, I can see why this guy's called Mr. Small Figure now, because all of the fruit and veg at Albert Square is literally the size of a Vauxhall Corsa. Remember, this was the 80s and nobody cared if they were eating genetically modified crops. This is comical at this stage. Imagine a banana the size of you. That would be honestly terrifying. And how are these people getting their groceries back on the bus? I used to live in East London. I can tell you, that would not be a nice time. To stop everything kicking off at the fruit stall, you need to leave and go to this phone and shout banana or cabbage at some bloke, I assume, on the other end of the line every time one of the items runs out. Again, I'm having considerable difficulty pressing the button where the finger is pointed in the right place. It's so inconsistent, and you'll find yourself just mashing the space bar and hoping for the best. Oh, now it's all kicking off at Ozcabs. Oh, this is exhausting. Okay, this is utter bobbins. Let's not even discuss the fact that the phone is the size of a house because, like I say, I couldn't pick up any of the alcohol, and I don't want to have a mental breakdown without it. Even though the icon was flashing to say it's all kicking off, it's absolutely not kicking off until the phone starts ringing. So you just wander around back and forth for a good 60 seconds before there's anything for you to do. When you pick up the phone and do some more frantic spacebar molesting, you take control of the taxi represented by this big T symbol. You'll need to navigate the most bullshit maze in history to pick up a person here, take them to their home, and then take the taxi back to the rank. I say it's bullshit because not only is it confusing because of the colours here, but this taxi is not fit for the road. It slips about all over the shop. You have to be so vigilant to get it through a junction because it will slide all over the place before finally getting where it needs to be. That being said, of the screens so far, this is by far the most playable. Oh no, the laundrette is having issues. Alright, come on. How is this guy not utterly exhausted? He's looking after children, driving taxis, ordering fruit, doing other people's laundry. Is he getting paid? You know, I can't help but feel that this guy is getting massively taken advantage of. Hey, buddy. I know it can be tempting to help out other people at the expense of yourself and your own mental well-being, but ultimately, the most important person in your life is you. So f*** 'em. You have to open the washers, then pick up the baskets and chuck them in. And then later, you're going to need to come back and move them into the dryers down here. Honestly, where are the employees to do this? Whose washing is this? Who the hell leaves their dirties for Mr. Small Figure to sort out? This poor guy has been taken for a ride here. Finally, it's the allotment screen. In this one, when your help is needed, a guy tries to murder his love rival among the prize dahlias, and you have to beat the former to death with a spade. Then you and the love rival bury his body in bits of brain matter before sowing forget-me-nots in the soil and fucking on top of it. No, I'm joking. You need to stop the weeds from growing big enough to touch the top of the screen. That's it? Really? I hate to sound like a total bastard, but I was kind of expecting the baby to become terribly ill by the time it's game over, or maybe for the laundrette to catch fire. You know, for people to die. What just happened is a series of the most mundane bullshit ever put to a video game. And on top of it being mundane bobbins, it's only half responsive bobbins. Just getting the weird pointy finger in the right space to do anything is an utter nightmare. And because the action button is meant to be the spacebar, I now have to get a new ZX Spectrum because mine has a crater where the spacebar was from smashing it so hard. And on top of that, leaving each of the screens is a mission. No, seriously, it really is. Some screens make it easier by having this big bar you're meant to touch that represents a door frame, but others like the baby scene give you no indication what specific part of the screen border you're meant to touch to get the fuck out of there. I honestly spent a good 2 minutes just trying to get out of this stupid room with this stupid baby. I'm surprised it didn't wake up again from me swearing so loudly at the screen. Yeah, okay, maybe I wasn't expecting a video game from an era when video games were supposedly mostly for kids to cover the kind of topics that Eastenders does. But at the same time, surely only adults who are fans of the series would want to play it. Anyone under 12 who actually enjoys Eastenders probably needs to be kept a very close eye on. So why not maybe make it a text adventure game where it's all kicking off? Why are you handing me a pair of shears and saying, hey, do you mind making sure the weeds don't touch the top of the screen, when I'm already primed and ready to jam these into someone's ocular cavity? This game is a disappointment on every single level. Like me. I don't know if you noticed earlier, but in the instructions insert, it lists a bunch of other platforms for this game. Amstrad, presumably CPC, BBC/Electron, and Commodore 64. Now, this game was not released on any of these formats, not even the BBC Micro, which is very surprising considering the license. From what I can gather, they were at least to the production level before they were canned, and the BBC Micro version, at least, might maybe possibly exist somewhere out there, but I don't know. The only version I could find at all was the ZX Spectrum version, and honestly, it's unlikely the other versions offered anything different. I don't think the game never made it to the other platforms because the ZX Spectrum version was so bad. It seems more likely that it was because Maxon closed in 1987, because they were in a lot of debt. Even without the knowledge of the soap opera, I'd be happy to put this up in the top 10 worst ZX Spectrum games. I'd easily put it in the top 20 worst games I've ever played. Even if it was responsive, it is just boring. Why would I want to do the laundry, cut weeds, or get paralytically drunk in a local and have to be taxied home when I do that in real life anyway? And sorry to bring this up again, but the proportion in this game is so wild. Nothing is consistent. The pub scene makes sense on the whole, and I'll give the laundry screen a pass too, even though the machines and the baskets are still quite big. Also, I don't know what the shit this yellow thing is in the corner, and no, I don't care. But step into the market stall, the baby's room, or the taxi place, and it's like you've walked into a fantastical land of giants. Giants that can't be asked to look after their own children. Who would have guessed Polyphemus would be a deadbeat dad? Oh, and your gameplay experience will be accented by this irritating, loud ringing now and again. That means that someone's calling the taxi place, and wherever you are, you hear it. I don't know what's happened to the employees at this taxi place. Are they dead? In fact, is everyone dead? The only adult human being you actually see is Mr. Smallfigure, and this immobile stick figure on the taxi screen. And how come the streets the taxi drives through are like a labyrinth? Is this purgatory? Is Mr. Smallfigure taking souls to their final resting spot, the gate of heaven or hell? You don't actually see anyone in the pub, just the word stout or mild pops up, and I mean that could just be describing my looks, so I'm not convinced there's even a living person here. That must be it. All the adults have been raptured, everyone except Mr. Smallfigure and this baby, doomed to be a child forever, crying for parents long gone. Maybe this entire game is the purgatory of one man, enslaved by God or the devil to do the same tasks again and again and serve the lost souls that used to be his neighbours, his friends. Oh, I think I just accidentally wrote an SCP there. Freaked myself out a bit, actually. Thank you for watching. I'm now off to go and shout banana loudly down a phone.